As the sun sets slowly into the western sky, we find our intrepid idiot still at the shop. Hello, tubulans. Woohoo! Hello, you tubulans. Greeting, tubulators. Hello, pals and Pauline. Greeting, Mimsabs and Mimshahiads. Hello, boys and berries. Hello, you habaneros. Welcome again to What Not to Do, because don't do it. No, neighbors.
Welcome everybody to, I think this is our 5th installment of Know Your Neighbors, and today I am joined by Mr. Steve Rains, Cutworm59. Say hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Steve is coming to us from where in the world today?
I'm in the big woods here in Arkansas, right in the middle of it.
Clinton country for sure, right?
It was, until he went nuts. That Washington group will make anybody nuts.
So there's actually two Clintons. One of them has already been president, and one wants to be president.
Well, we'll find out. I kind of dread it. I know him a lot better than I know her.
I don't know if that's good or bad. Big plans for 4th of July?
Well, my daddy's coming home from the hospital today. So thank the good Lord and everybody there. And we'll probably hang around there and have a good weekend.
You had told me your daddy was in the hospital. I'm really glad to hear he's coming home. I'm hoping he's doing a hell of a lot better.
He's about got her whooped, fixing to come home.
Oh, good, good. Well, let's see. I kind of want to talk about cars a little bit. You've got a few cars that you're working on right now. Little bit of background. How many cars have you restored in your life, Steve?
Yeah, I don't know. You count cars and army trucks and boats and women. I don't know what the number is. Not very many.
Not very many women or not very many cars?
That's privileged information, I would say. Being a gentleman. I do want to tell everybody one thing. I have a clue on why everybody is so blooming good on our YouTube garage and other places, why we all are so wonderful to each other.
And what's that, Steve?
Well, this is the best venue for us to be the people that we always wanted to be, or always wanted ourselves to be, our inner view of ourselves, and so we can try our best to do our best and be our best.
And it works out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't know Cutworm before you showed up to Project 54. I'd seen your comments before and a little bit of the YouTube stuff, but really didn't know you from Adam. And it's always sort of a mixed bag. You show up with a bunch of people you don't know to work on something, and you hope for the best. And I couldn't have been happy that you showed up. I think you wound up making quite a few friends over the weekend there, and were by far the how do I want to say that, the most entertaining guy there.
I've always been a big idiot.
I would say, along with the entertainment factor, you were also one of the hardest working guys there, and just plowed through stuff, and it was really kind of cool.
Thank you. I was always kind of eat up with you and the rest of them boys. I can tell the good folks when I see them. I've got 55 years of dealing with folks, and y'all are dandies. It's a 500-year-old laptop. We don't know.
You're into the Heralds, right?
Yeah.
How did you get into that particular brand? Because if I've seen right, I think you've owned a dozen or maybe more of them.
I've only owned one Herald, and I got the itch from a fellow YouTuber, Scott Best, from Scott's Garage. He's building a Vitesse, which is a souped-up version of a Herald. You might be talking about my Crosleys.
That's what I'm talking about. There's a couple car brands out there that I'm not terribly familiar with, and it seems like once people get into them, they're into them.
I didn't know what a Crosley was until I seen one on YouTube, actually. And from then on, I've just been crazy about them. They're made in Cincinnati and made for cross-town driving, not particularly interstate driving, because they're real low-speeded and low-powered and tiny. We've got it pretty lucky on Crosleys because they made more parts than they made cars. A restored Crosley's not worth very darn much. The parts are cheap, and the real cheap guy, cheap person's car. We're all kind of cheap.
So it's a good fit.
Yeah, yep. You can restore one complete ground up for $5,000, and then when you get done, it's probably $5,000 if you're lucky.
Well, but the fun is in the doing, right? You're not into it to make money. You can't be.
I don't drive them when I get done. The fun for me is working on them. When I get them done, I put them in the garage and I start on something else. That's kind of stupid, ain't it?
But it seems to be there's a couple categories of guys, and some of them are the work on things, and some of them are the buy things and drive things. And you sort of either fall into one of those two categories.
That's true. You did a marvelous job on your Carmen Ghia. It's so beautiful. And I've still yet to get a ride in that rascal.
I didn't give you a ride when you were here?
No, my head was down sanding and beating and banging.
This Labor Day weekend, I think we're having another gathering. I'm more than happy to take you for a ride in it if you're going to be here.
I would sure love to be there. We'll have to see how my family does. Look like it's going to be all right. As long as you'll get me in it and promise to act ignorant for me. Or let me drive it and I'll act ignorant.
Well, I don't know how ignorant I'll act, but I might do some silly stuff.
That's a good. Is there anything you want to know about me? I mean, I pretty much tell everything about me.
Well, we're getting there. We gotta ease into this. This is how you do a professional interview. You gotta set the stage and work your way into the tough questions.
Okay. There I was.
What did you do in your former life?
Worked on cars most all my life, and when I worked for Ford Motor Company, I worked at a dealership during the day, and then I worked for the company during the night servicing the new cars. And then I went across the street and stocked groceries till 2 o'clock in the morning.
So you worked about 22 hours a day?
No, surely I couldn't. When you're making $23 an hour back in 1979, you want to get all that you can.
Did you work on the assembly line for Ford?
I just done the warranty work, and when the cars would come off the transport, I would set them up and take all the coffee cups out from under the engines and make sure everything was serviced up good, and then turn them loose.
So you worked on the delivery end?
Yeah, exactly. And for the dealership, I installed all the recalls on about 5 million Pintos whenever they got that rear end blow-up thing.
You work on cars during the day, and you would come home and work on your own projects at night. When did you start doing car projects for yourself?
The reason that I worked so hard was I was supporting Vice, and that was a race car. I had a modified stock car that I was using and building and driving. And then when it was broke, I'd take my Torino or a Mustang to the Cordova, and I'd drag race it just for fun.
So you were a drag racer, not a circle track racer?
When the stock car was running, I'd rather go around in a circle and make left-hand turn.
You were owner-driver then?
Yeah, I was. It was the hardest that I've ever worked and the hardest I've ever played. It was a lot of fun. What did they call me? They had a nickname for me. Everywhere I go, I get a nickname. They called me Captain Crunch. That was my driving style.
Everybody who races has a number. What was your number when you raced?
84.
And your home track was?
When I lived in Illinois when I was young, my home track was the Quad City Raceway, and then I had one over in Iowa, that I raced every other weekend.
Did you race races that were big enough to have pit stops?
The only time you would turn into the infield was to have a big fight with somebody else that was there.
And how often was that?
Pretty much every night, whether it was the feature or one of the heats, you're pretty much going to pull over in the middle in the infield and either whack their car with a helmet or whack them with their fist.
How many fists to the face did you take over your racing career?
A bunch. That's why this nose is pointed that way, and this eye don't hardly line up with this other eye, and my teeth have been knocked out and swallowed, and all these fingers has had teeth and stuff stuck up under the skin, and but at the end of the race, we'd all go to the pizza place, and we'd all hug each other, and it was just wonderful.
I don't know how long I'd hang out with that crew.
When they were drinking, they're fine, but since I never drank, I don't understand why they would get excited if I, put them in the fence, or if I pushed them off the road or used them to make my turns. A lot of times I didn't use the steering wheel. I used their car if I was on the inside to turn the corner. I was sponsored by Ford, but I was driving a Chevy Nova.
So did you have a big Ford sticker on your Chevy?
Yeah, it had Reynolds Ford on the side of it.
For those who haven't raced or who haven't been part of that scene, tell us what a sponsorship means. Tell us financially how much the sponsor kicked in to help you race. Was it just car parts, or did they actually give you some money to be out there?
Illinois side or on the Iowa side, they pay my entry fee. And when you won, if you won, you got a little plastic trophy or a tall plastic trophy, and $200 and a case of oil.
And that case of oil probably lasted a week?
Yeah, with that 350 Chevrolet, it didn't last too long. You'd spend $1,000 in one race. After you get done, you have to fix the car back up, and it would take $1,000 to put the car back up in shape. If they thought you were running the illegal, of course, you're running the illegal, they would tear you down, and if you won and they tear you down and they find out you're illegal, then they take your money and your case of oil away and let somebody else win. But if they tear you down and you're all right, they give you $200 for gaskets.
So how many times did you get torn down and caught?
I would refuse to tear down and just let the other guy have the trophy.
Smart.
I moved to Arkansas finally after the world ended, and I got banned from 2 tracks, which was pretty cool.
What did you do to get banned?
My normal stuff.
Which is?
It's not a contact sport down here. You got to kind of drive behind them or drive around them. You can't drive inside their car or nothing, or across their hood or something. Buffalo River Speedway and the one out at Mountain Home, I can't go back there because I can't go anywhere anyway, because if I watch a race now, the next weekend I'll buy a car. So it's one of them addictions that I can't get around.
I know some other people with that addiction.
We didn't go that fast. We just had a lot of fun and swapped fenders and all sorts of tires and stuff. We just had a lot of fun when you was done right.
How many cars raced in your typical heats back then?
The heats were about 20 car deals, and then the feature would probably have, I don't know, 30.
Now, did you have a penchant for sitting on the pole, or were you one of those guys that always worked your way through the pack?
It depended on how I was cheating that particular weekend.
All right. So, okay, for those who don't know, what are some of the things that you did to cheat, or let's just say interpret the rules differently?
You can do 1,000 things to the engine and make it do what's right, and you can do 1,000 things to the chassis or frame on the car to make it do what's right. One time they limited us on our traction jacks that goes under the wheels, and they limited it on that, and so I just had the frame bent down. We hooked it up and bent the frame down, and the car kind of set a little whomper jawed, but it would corner really, really well.
When they were checking for engine specs, they're looking for displacement, valve lift, valve size,
and carburetor size. They'd measure your carburetor and your intake. At that time, you couldn't run aluminum heads and stuff.
Well, that's kind of a hard one to hide, isn't it?
Not really.
Well, how do you disguise an aluminum head? I mean, they don't even have to tear your engine down. They just have to pop your hood, don't they?
Well, when they use a magnet, and the magnet will stick to the outside of an aluminum head, they can't say nothing.
So how did you accomplish that? Did you just wrap the metal around it?
It's a metal negative piece that you print newspapers on. It's really thin, and it's really good to stick on stuff, and a magnet will stick to it. And you can dress one up with that really easy.
A steel printing plate.
Yeah. I've only done that once. Once on each side.
That's twice.
Well, twice. Once one incident.
I'm not sure if I believe you or not.
Well, you probably shouldn't. I know it gets long.
In the era of sports and drugs and this and that and the other thing, did you ever feel guilty enough about your interpretations of the rules to keep back any of your trophies?
Well, when I started, I was bone legal. Everything was legal, all the way down to the lug nuts. And they just stomped me. I was the last guy every time I raced. Last guy. And somebody elbowed me and says, "Hey, if you want to be competitive, buy my car." So the best way to get into it is buy a winning car. So that's where I come up with the little Nova, and it kept getting littler and littler and littler, but nobody measured it much. And it had lots of tricks already done to it, and the engine was all goobed up, and I went from there on. There was a couple. Well, every racetrack has got a crew of partners, and they like to run up front, and they'll keep you back behind. You know, they'll have like 2 or 3 guys that race together, and unless you really can get around them, they'll hold you back and do all sorts of mean things to you. You got to get their respect or get their fear.
And you worked by getting their...
Both. It depends. It was up to them. They could either fear me or respect me. I didn't really care as long as they let me around. I was pretty much Captain Crunch back then. Boy, if you look up stuff, even poor Richard Petty, he cheated his butt off to win all them championships, and God bless him for it. They caught him once when they were doing this gas rationing and stuff. That's pretty ballsy to have a roll cage full of gas. What got you into these Volkswagens? Aren't they a little foreign for you?
Well, I don't know. I drove one day, and that was the end of it. It was literally one ride in a Volkswagen changed what I thought of them, and now I feel like I can't have enough.
I never was around a Volkswagen, and that sounds weird because I've been around lots of weird stuff, even Corvairs. I've worked on Corvairs, but not a Volkswagen. I wouldn't know anything about Volkswagens had it not been for you and B.W. Darren and several others. And now I've seen inside all of them.
The sad thing now is they're no longer cheap to work on. If you want to do it right, the parts are getting outrageously expensive.
That's a shame because there's not that much to them.
Well, Darren made the statement not too long ago that you'll pay more for a Volkswagen engine, a 4-cylinder Volkswagen engine, than you will a V8 now. So,
I believe it.
Yeah, it's true, and even at that, you know, everything that I've seen, the real high quality parts are just depleting. You know, the Mall factory burnt down, and they're not making those pistons anymore, and they were really the only game in town for a very long time.
I've worked on and rebuilt Cushmans, and they've got that OMC engine that's a lot like what I see on the Volkswagen, and they run great.
I'm not familiar with the inner workings of a Cushman.
Well, that's probably a good thing, but they're just a two-cylinder opposing air-cooled engine, and they've got a big old piston in them, and some of them are 18 horsepower, some of them are 22. You can change the jugs out and put a 22 horsepower jugs and pistons in it, and they'll fly.
Outside of golf carts, what else does Cushman make?
Back in the 50s and 60s, they made these little four-wheel trucksters and things. Really cool, neat stuff, and just like a little truck. When I got a job at the state, the facility I worked at had about 20 of these old rascals running around. And I got to learn on them. They're a lot of fun.
I guess I've probably seen them then. They're the same things that like a parking attendant might have.
Yeah, kind of like that. And still they ended up turning them over and flipping them and doing stuff. So you're in the outhouse, aren't you? You need to flush once in a while, let people know you're in there.
That's right. There is no flush. It just drops down. Here's a little quiz for you. I'm sitting here looking at the cover of this magazine. What kind of car is this? Can you see it?
It's a shiny one. They used to, in England, they called them a frog-eyed Sprite. Over here, we call them a bug-eyed Sprite. It's a cheap version of the Healy.
How's Wilma running?
She's running good. Them racing tires I put on it, them Avon, they're real tender. So they pick up every rock and nail in the world, so I just kind of fix flats and go on.
You're how far from being done with, I'm going to call it the red car because now I'm confused between Crosley's and Harold's.
I just need finishing and then I'll be done. Mostly the body parts and then do my interior and I'm done. Got all my drivetrain built and the few accessories that goes on it. And next is fix the rust in the body and sand her down and dip it in red paint.
It's been a blast talking to you, and it was fantastic meeting you in person. And I look forward to hopefully getting to do that again later this summer. Before we leave, I have a request. You had some of the best animal call that I've ever heard.
When you grow up in the woods and all your buddies has got feathers and fur, that's all you talk to. You can. We've got a cat. Can't do it much today. I got a tingle, and then Shirley Jean goes. And well, hi, Shirley Jean. Come here, Larry. Shirley Jean, you want to sing? You want to sing? Woo, hurrah. Sing. Sing. Go. Woo. You little rascal. She usually sings at night. And see if I can do the turkey today. And an owl goes. And a fish goes blah 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 blah. And cows. And I think that's about it. All them I run through on my honeymoon night, and she got to laughing so hard, all I got to do is go to bed after everything was done. So, you know, the pressure was off.
Somehow I believe that might be true.
Made the folks in the next hotel room, made them nervous.
Well, Steve, thanks for joining me today. I enjoyed the conversation thoroughly, and I look forward to seeing more progress on the cars and just kind of general hanging out with Steve and Shirley Jean.
Okay, I sure enjoyed it, Gregor. You can holler at me anytime you want to. I'm just right here. And tell everybody I love them.
I will. And hey, don't let your meatloaf. We'll see you, Steve.
We at Cut Laboratories want to extend our thanks to all of you YouTube Garage Gang technicians and long-suffering female women that are supporting the technicians and thereof. Thank you very much for your continued work and excellent service.